You were geographically then a transitionary force, but you were also female.
There was a
Do
lot
you
of
think that that played an enormous role, one, in the attitude of the city politicians towards you, and two, in the attitude of the press?
Yes, very definitely. Very definitely. It was very difficult, never to my face, but it was very difficult with the machine. The machine had never been, as I just got through saying, Miami, they didn't have one woman present. They weren't even able to sit down at a convention. They had not really fostered women, and if you look at it today, you don't see any. I mean, there's no push to get women on the ticket, excepting in lower level positions. There's been no upgrading of ward committee women. There's been no change in the legislative sessions in Springfield, which had been a commitment in the past to the Democratic National Committee, co-ward committeemen, ward committee women. It's tokenism, and it's there, and it's strong. Well, ERA never passed in the state of Illinois. Here's a woman mayor of the city of Chicago who could pick up a phone and call legislators on almost any issue and get the vote.
Personal frustration for you?
Sure, because I knew what it meant. It was a slap, and it was a slap really to many women. But, I mean, now I had another point to make. And the media, yeah, I thought in the last campaign that it had to have been an all-time low to have concerned the public in a tough race for the second most powerful city in America with my clothes. I mean, that to me was the height of chauvinism and the fostering of a non-issue when you're sitting saying, look, we've got the best bond rating of any of the older American cities. We've got a 10-year plan with the expansion of all the things that are going down the tube. Navy Pier, North Loop, the library, the 10-year plan, the transit system extension to the southwest side. All those things we put together and got them funded by the federal government, which was almost unheard of under the Reagan administration. We got it, and it was all in place. You never heard that. Sometimes things that are coming out now, Jay will say, oh, isn't that a wonder? I said, yeah, we announced it. But nobody knew it because they were discussing whether or not I had changed my mind, whether or not I changed my clothes, whether or not I changed my style. And here you're talking about a battle, a three-way battle, a woman between two men for the future of this city.
But you did change your mind an awful lot, didn't you?
No, I didn't change my mind any more than any man.
If you could go back and do it over again, if you could eradicate the embarrassments of the office, the mistakes you did make, wouldn't some of them have to do with taking away that indecisiveness of whether or not, for instance, to endorse President Carter or Senator Kennedy?
That was never reported accurately. What I said that night at that dinner was if the election were held. Now, I'd been in the Daley cabinet when Mayor Daley said, I'm supporting Henry Meyer of Milwaukee, Wisconsin for president, and went right out to the convention and endorsed somebody else. I put a condition on it. I said, if. I then spent time with President Carter, a lot of time, and I knew he wasn't going to make it. Now, I'm a Democrat, right? And primaries are to pick a man that can make it or a woman that can make it, the Democratic primary. The rest of the nation sure agreed with me because he carried, what, one state his own.
Didn't Mayor Daley teach you that you always support the head of your party regardless of whether or not he can win?
No. Why would you want to support a Democrat who can lose? Now, if you're talking about in that race, if we were talking about a Democratic president versus a Republican, we weren't. We were talking about a primary, two Democrats fighting it out for who could beat the Republican. I mean, it isn't as if you did, it's not like you said, I'm not supporting the Democratic president. You're saying, look, there are going to be other candidates in this race. I'm not for him because he can't win.
For all the misperceptions.
And by goodness, and I'm being very polite when I say by goodness, he didn't. I mean, I was pretty smart. He didn't carry one state in the nation.
For all the misperceptions that there were about
one
you.
State, his own.
For all the knocking of your head against a brick wall.
Sure.
Why would anybody want to aspire to mayor again?
Well, I think what the question you asked one back was very, you said, what would you do differently? And I think probably I didn't talk to the people enough. And I know that the consultant and the people that we had that came in saw that you got so bogged down in the bureaucracy and the governing that you sort of take it for granted they will understand. And if you create that void and you're not there, not out there explaining, no, I didn't say that, or this is what it's like, or this is why I did it. Or as they say for most men, new information has come in and he's rethinking his position. Well, I didn't have that said about me. It was either yes, she did, or no, she didn't, or she changed her mind. But I mean, I've heard them say the president is rethinking his position. I've heard him say Harold Washington is rethinking his position. And then when he rethinks it, it's announced. It's not announced then, it's perception as a change of mind. So maybe what I should have done is taken the time, which you have none, to sit down and send out a message, I am rethinking my position, all right? Then after I gave it a subtle amount of time, I could say, I have rethought my position. Then after I rethought it, my new position could come forward. Now that's what you have to do, evidently.
Is that what you'll do next time around?
I would be rethinking my position at all times, on everything, because there's so much information coming in at all times that you have to.
Is that what you'll do next time around?
I think you, I didn't, now you're trying to catch me there. Is that what I'll do next time around? I think that most successful politicians, mayors, elected officials should spend an awful lot of time in trying to inform their constituency why they're doing what they're doing, and not allow the government itself to become so... We had, don't forget, my first 6 months, I had a $100 million deficit. The schools walked in and told me in November, I walked in at the end of April, that they had a $700 million deficit, not shortfall, deficit. Collapsed, closed, no money. That board had even allowed them to take the teachers' federal withholding and use it for operations. So I did. I got into straightening it all out, and I didn't sit down and say, oh, you don't understand? Well, let me tell you. I didn't.
Okay, you're a lot wiser now, and you obviously are diverting my question. You have refused categorically to commit as to whether or not you would want to be mayor or run for mayor again in 1987.
Right.
Why?
Well, I think that, as I say, the city's in a transition. It was in a transition with Mabel Landick and so forth. Much of the country is. And particularly the Democratic Party. You're seeing develop on the national ticket the same thing that we went through here in Chicago. Three people originally, Hart, Jesse Jackson, and Mondale. Then you saw the split, then you see the change. Now we have one candidate. I think every mayor has the right, and should have the right, to do the best that he or she can do. And I think the first year of Harold Washington's term, he should have been allowed to do that. I think he should now. That was not given to me. And I would not do that to somebody. And I wouldn't be sitting here explaining to you perception had I been allocated the right to be the mayor.
Nonetheless, that does not answer my
That's
question.
That's why, really. I think, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. And I think to get out and cut into the back of somebody that's, you know, I know in an overwhelming job and start slingshotting right away and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, look what he's doing. You know, we all belong to this city and we all have something to lose. And when the time comes, if you think somebody has not done a job and you've given them a fair time and you're watching it, and you know, I worked hard, I loved it. These are my projects that they're killing, every one of them. And nothing new has been announced, and everything that you're seeing get wiped out. They were all ours. They were our stamp.
Allow me this, since time is
everything
is running out. Since we're dealing a lot in perceptions, it is the perception that you will run again. It is the perception predicated on your many speaking engagements, predicated on the fact that you're learning the language of Spanish. The other day,
you did a lot of research.
The other day in the Ink column, and I will quote, word is that Alderman Edward Verdoliak is thinking about running for mayor, but that he won't announce his intentions until after the next mayoral primary. Wonder how former Mayor Jane Byrne, who plans to get a big head start by announcing her plans after the November election, will feel about that. We have 30 seconds. Answer their question for me.
I think that's a misprint. It says after the mayoral primary. If it's after the mayoral primary, how's he going to run?
Good point.
I mean, there has to be.
How do you feel about Edward Verdoliak running against you for the office of mayor of Chicago?
Well, I think that if people are going to run for mayor, they have to make up their mind. It's not going to be an easy race for anybody. I think that people are going to be out to get it. They always were. They always will be.
How do you feel about Verdoliak running against you?
If he were to run against me?
10 seconds.
I think if it were just he and I think I could beat him.
I think the frustration of this brand new show called Dimensions is going to be guests like former Mayor Jane Byrne, who's so enormously articulate that I feel frustrated we completely run out of time. Thank you for being with us.
Nice being with you, Joan.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us on our premiere show. We'll be back again next Wednesday morning. Until then, bye-bye.